Hi everybody, this is Olivier Oullier live from the Qualcomm Haus at Davos 2026. I'm here as part of the official USA House AI Summit with Arvind Satyam. Arvind, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Olivier. It's great to be here.
Well, we need to be transparent with our audience. We know each other very well.
Right.
And this is one of these moments where I'm so happy to be able to have a conversation with someone who's a friend, but who's doing amazing things, who have a great impact on people's lives and on our environment. Arvind, before we dive into the nitty-gritty details of technology, of AI, you are with Pano AI. In your own words, what does Pano do?
Pano is really focused on bringing the latest around artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, satellite technology to get the first whiff of smoke and heat so that you're able to detect wildfires as quickly as they emerge. So you've got the ability to then mount a initial attack strategy to keep them lower. As the saying goes, Olivier, every large fire starts small. We want to get that intel early.
It's almost predictive analytics, or predictive of something that would be wild and that is just a little bit, right?
Well, I mean, so predictive is where we're going to go in the future, but a lot of what happens today is very analog. So the way you get notified of incidents, whether you're in California or even in Europe, somebody needs to call it in. So when they call it in, it goes to an agency that needs to figure out, where is it? How big is it? Is it near power lines? Is it near structures? Do I need to send in a helicopter? So all this intel today is not available. So when we looked at this problem, we asked ourselves, is the latest and greatest in technology being applied to this problem? And the short answer is no.
Let's rewind a little bit on the story and talk about you. What are you training? What's your background?
Sure. So first and foremost, I grew up in Sydney as a kid. So I used to see bushfires every season, but in 2020, the front page of the New York Times on the 31st of December, you may remember, was a kangaroo on a burnt landscape. And I heard stories of friends and family getting evacuated onto beaches. So that was, if you like, a burning platform for me to say, can we do something about this problem? In terms of my background, I worked at Cisco prior to this, where I built a lot of their IoT business, smart cities business. So had a lot of experience thinking about technology deployed in the physical world. And so the question we said is, well, if we can do that in cities, we can do that in industrial environments, can we bring that capability here? I've also spent almost 20 years in Silicon Valley, so have spent a lot of time thinking about how to go build companies, raise financing, and scale from that context.
But it's that very thing that you saw in 2020 that made you switch. You were at Cisco back then?
I was, and what's interesting is it's that particular impetus actually happened in Davos. So there was a group that came together, our Young Global Leader group, and there was about 15 of us, a number of Australian YGLs, and we're all trying to figure out how did this get this bad, and what can we do? And there were some people that were focused on response, but I was really thinking about it from the standpoint of, can you get early intel? Can you get a little bit more predictive so you can allocate resources more effectively? So that was the mission that I went back to San Francisco with, and afterwards, I called my co-founder, Sonia, who's also got a background in technology. She scaled a number of companies, and we sat there and literally explored all the technology that we could find around the space. But we also met almost 40 stakeholders in fire, in insurance, in utilities, and we asked them, how would you deal with this problem? If you had the best technology out there, how would you do this? And that's really how we came up with this thesis.
You started from understanding what the need was and what was missing, and thinking about how technology could basically fix what was missing or prevent having to face all these hurdles and missing information, right?
So in 2018, California had major wildfires. Governor Newsom at that time, there was a report that came out, and one of the missing ingredients that they highlighted is we needed early detection. If you were to think about it from the context of healthcare,
that's what I was thinking, early detection of what could be cancer.
Exactly. So if it's cancer, if you're able to get it early and you know it's a high rate of spread incident and you throw everything at it, you've got the ability to contain it quickly. So it wasn't just what we saw in California, but also Australia did a lot of research. And they also said the missing ingredient was around early detection, but also a whole range of tools so you can get better situational awareness.
Okay, let's go into this whole range of tools because thinking, out of the blue like that, satellite images, how you correlate with the first information you mentioned because it comes from a call, then coordination of what could be a solution, all the stakeholders that you need to inform in order to have intervention. Can you walk us through what the process would be and where technology is and is improving? So it starts from a call.
Yep. So the way it works, so if you think about the US context, you're getting notified. So you've got local dispatch centers, you've got state, local, and federal agencies. They're receiving a call and they're getting told that there is a fire, we see smoke. And then they need to physically go send out an engine or a plane in remote areas to say, where is it? How big is it? How do I do that? What we try to understand is who are all the stakeholders that need the intel? Who are the people that need to get this capability? By the way, when you get that call, it's not like all of them are getting notified. That then needs to be disseminated. And from a technology standpoint, you can get all the stakeholders that you need very quickly once you get the intel. So what we focused on is who are the stakeholders that need the intel and what is the intel that they need? So we then looked at what is the technology that could enable us to do that. We explored satellites. Problem with satellites is you've got latency when it comes to geostationary satellites. And the imagery that you get, it's 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers, and you have a whole bunch of false positives. It's good for a signal, but it's not the same as getting high-resolution imagery. So we looked at ultra-high resolution cameras. We also explored drones. The challenge with drones is when there's smoke, the FAA clears the airspace so drones can't fly. Also, how many drones would you need? So the idea of deploying cameras on top of cell towers that are continuously looking down on areas of fire risk made a lot of sense.
So you also have to deploy hardware. It's not just the AI technology. It's a combination. So you're into physical AI to a certain extent.
It is a deep tech problem because you've got to go and deploy in really remote environments, also in the urban, wildland urban environments. So we're deployed all the way from, say, Big Sky, Montana. We're on top of 11,300 feet, and we're exposed to the elements. We're in the Australian outback. We've got to think about connectivity, everything from 5G to Starlink. We've got to think about power. So in some cases, we've got to think about solar. So this is a situation where we need to think about cameras that are ultra high resolution. They need to be ruggedized. They need to be connected. And then we need to be able to get the imagery to start processing AI real time.
Which means that it's very important to speak about hardware because we're here in the Qualcomm Haus. And as a partner of the USA House here in Davos, it was important also to discuss how hardware is contributing to AI these days. We've talked to Cerebras, there's Qualcomm. And it's so important to share with people that the whole spectrum, in order to deliver the right outcomes that are AI-powered, solution-driven, require software, coding, AI, you name it, but it's a whole ecosystem. And you guys are embodying this.
It's so if we were to think about a different analogy, you think of self-driving cars. You have cars that are running around to really look at the environment, to train the environment, whether that be California, whether that be Arizona. In our case, there is no fire data that's visually available. No one's capturing that ultra-high resolution imagery. There's a couple of groups that are trying to do it. So we had to go deploy in these environments, think of an old fire lookout, and then we've been collecting a data set across 15 states in the US, 6 states in Australia and Canada.
That's a conversation we already had because I'm not into what you do, but what we do with collecting brainwaves, facial expression, eye tracking, you name it, for our models to empower machines to adapt to people in real time, we face the same problem. The data set does not exist.
Exactly.
You need to build a data set, which has a cost, massive cost. And which brings me to my next question is, you're a private company. You're not a charity. You're not an NGO. So who are your clients?
So the clients today are a broad range. So we've got fire and emergency services that are users because they're the ones that are fighting the incidents. So we've got over 600 agencies in the US alone, 2,800 end users that are actually receiving alerts whose job it is to go put out the fires. But in addition to that, utilities and the energy sector are our largest client base. So you and I were at the energy reception in USA House, and a lot of it is around AI leadership and how energy demand is a big part of it. The biggest risk to resilience of the grid in the US is wildfires. And so big part of what we do is help utility companies get early visibility. And Olivier, imagine if you knew that there is a triangulated location of a fire, and it is 300 yards away from energized power lines. The utility can then proactively de-energize just that part of the grid. So we're able to give them a lot more visibility to how to make the grid more resilient, which directly ties to a lot of the AI work that's happening. And if I can just build on that.
Sure.
So that is utilities, that is governments, but we also have private companies, so private landowners and others who are also customers.
Well, I can imagine that a private company that has a factory, that has an estate that is surrounded by...
Or a ski resort, or anything that's built in a wildfire-prone environment, which in a lot of parts of the U.S. and Europe and Australia, et cetera, that's a lot that comes into the mix.
So when was the company founded? 2020?
It was founded in the summer of 2020.
All right. And can you share a little bit where you are in terms of fundraising?
Absolutely. Yes, so we've raised $90 million. We're Series B. We're incredibly grateful to the investors that we have. And we've also been very selective in terms of who those investors are. We have a combination of deep tech investors, folks like DCVC,
Sure,
Valor,
our friend Zach Bogg.
Exactly, Valor, who are on the board of Tesla. So a lot of that discipline when it comes to building hardware and the operational side of it. So we had to go master that. But we also have folks like Salesforce, who've been an incredible partner. We're one of the first companies that they've invested in, where there is a hardware and a platform and an AI element. We also have T-Mobile, because we sit on top of towers. 5G is a big part of it. And we have climate tech investors like Congruent, and then Giant out of the UK led the recent round. And the last thing is we had 3 insurance companies that have joined the round. So if you think about this context, one of the big issues in the US, wildfires is leading to people not getting insurance anymore. So we want to prove to insurance companies, and we're collecting a lot of data on it, over time, areas where Pano is deployed, the risk has gone down. So underwriters are now thinking, you know what, those areas are more investable.
Must be insurance company's best friend.
Well, we're trying to work on that, right? In some ways, it's like the good driver discount, but it's not even the good driver discount, it's just good driver coverage.
Got it. Well, that one thing I like is to look at what one sector is doing and how the technology, the science developed for one sector can be transferred to another. Other sectors where you think that what you're developing could benefit, well, who could benefit outside wildfires?
Of course.
Watch the ecosystem, the digital and AI ecosystem that you've built. Which sectors?
So if I just think about broader resiliency, and I was here 2 years ago, and climate was a big part of the agenda. And today it's a little bit more hidden. But we know, as you look at the risk reports, extreme weather events still pop up as number one in the long-term horizon, and they're very high in the short-term horizon. Not just wildfires. We're seeing hotter hots, wetter wets, colder colds. All of these are stressing the environment, infrastructure, and communities. So beyond wildfires, there are things that we can adapt this to other risks. But as you think about this approach of using AI and detection, obviously you've seen this in healthcare. I think any of the areas that can benefit from early visibility and a whole bunch of tools, situational awareness that gives you the ability and range of stakeholders to make decisions, this type of technology can be applied.
All right. Now let's talk a little bit more about AI. What was, for your company, the first part of what you want to cover of processing, collecting, coordinating? Where was AI the most useful at the beginning? What was the low-hanging fruit?
Sure.
If any?
So if you imagine that majority of the incidents are called in through a 911 call, that requires somebody to actually see the smoke and then call 911. What we needed to do was train our AI to be able to see smoke or not smoke. And we had to do that in dry environments. We had to do that in environments where there may be smoke, clouds, snow on the ground. We had to look at environments like mountainous regions, also dry regions. So the AI really required a data set that allowed us to go do that during the day and at nighttime. So that was a low-hanging fruit, being able to detect all the stuff early.
Well, one thing I would like to end with is, if you had a magic wand, what is the technological part that you would need right now in order to make what you do even better?
Well, Olivier, I think we're still scratching the surface. We need a lot of this capability deployed across the US, across the Western Hemisphere in these areas. It's not a technology problem anymore. This stuff is real, it works, it makes a difference, and that data set's going to continue to increase. And then secondly, a lot of the business models are going to evolve through that. So it's all about scale.
It's all about scale. Now let's scale down and talk about one of the last interaction we had, which was about my hometown of Marseille, France. And I think you and I have a little passion in common, right?
We do. We love our football. And the first French football game that I ever went to was in the Vélodrome.
In Marseille?
Which, hey, I got to tell you, I mean, the most parochial and fun crowd that I've been around.
And we got to end up with one word, or actually one slogan, Allez l'OM.
Allez l'OM, allez l'OM.
Arvind, beyond football, beyond our friendship, please, again, congratulations to you and your team. Convey my admiration to you, your co-founder and your team on using very high-level science and tech in order to do something very concrete that everybody can understand and benefit from. So Pano AI is amazing. This was Arvind Satyam live from the Qualcomm Haus in Davos 2026 as part of the AI Summit of the official USA Davos House. I'm Olivier Oullier. We'll see you soon with more AI stories.
Merci beaucoup.